What if I told you that rejection isn't the end, but the beginning of your real power, that every no you've ever received wasn't a failure, but a redirection to something better? You've been taught to take it personally, to question your worth, to shrink. But you women, they don't beg, they don't chase, and they definitely don't break over being overlooked. They rise, because they know something most people don't. Rejection isn't a reflection of who you are. It's protection from what you don't need. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll never see rejection the same way again. Rejection is redirection, not a reflection of self-worth. This simple yet profound truth can transform the way we experience disappointment, especially in areas where emotions run deep: relationships, careers, friendships, and self-image. So often, when we face rejection, we internalize it. We let it become a statement about who we are rather than what the situation truly was. We assume that being turned down, overlooked, or dismissed means we're not good enough, not attractive enough, not smart enough. But the reality is that rejection is rarely a measure of our value. More often, it's a signal that we are not aligned with what's meant for us. Think about the last time you felt rejected. The sinking feeling, the questions you asked yourself in private. What did I do wrong? Why wasn't I enough? But what if the answer wasn't about you at all? What if that missed opportunity was actually the universe, or life if you prefer, gently but firmly guiding you away from something that would not have served your highest good? Sometimes rejection closes a door, not because you are unworthy, but because what's behind it isn't meant for your growth, your peace, or your future. You women understand this distinction. They don't take rejection personally, even when it hurts. They've developed the emotional discipline to separate self-worth from situational outcomes. They know that being rejected doesn't shrink their value, it simply reshapes their path. They are grounded enough to recognize that rejection doesn't say, "You're not enough." It says, "This isn't your match, keep going." This mindset creates a powerful shift. Instead of spiraling into self-doubt, they become more curious, more intentional, more self-assured. They begin asking different questions, not "why don't they want me?" but "is this really what I want?" They take rejection as an invitation to look deeper into themselves and what they're aligning with. They evaluate whether their time and energy are being invested in the right places or in people and situations that only reflect a fraction of what they deserve. There is also a quiet wisdom in understanding that some rejections are acts of protection. What feels like loss in the moment may, in hindsight, turn out to be freedom from situations that could have drained or diminished them. With time, they start to see how every closed door created space for something better. That clarity brings peace, and that peace becomes a foundation for true confidence. When you detach your identity from the outcome of any one moment, you reclaim your power. You stop handing pieces of your worth to people who were never meant to hold them. And in that reclaiming, you realize that rejection was never a verdict. It was a redirection, a pivot, a chance to realign with what is truly for you. You begin to trust the process, trust yourself, and trust that every step away from what you thought you wanted brings you closer to what you were always meant to receive. Confidence comes from self-approval, not external validation. This is one of the most liberating realizations a woman can have. We live in a world that constantly tells us how to look, how to behave, and what to strive for. From social media likes to compliments from others, from romantic attention to professional praise, the temptation to base our worth on external feedback is everywhere. But true confidence, the kind that doesn't waver when the room is silent or when the phone doesn't ring, comes from within. It's built on the quiet, unwavering belief that you are enough, even when no one is watching, praising, or applauding. When a woman relies on external validation, she becomes dependent on something she cannot control. She may feel amazing when she's receiving attention, affection, or approval, but as soon as it's gone, she's left questioning her value. It's an exhausting cycle. One day you're on top of the world, the next you're wondering if you're invisible. That kind of confidence is conditional. It fluctuates with circumstances, opinions, and other people's moods. It's fragile, but You woman chooses differently. She knows that real power lies in self-approval, in choosing herself, even when others don't. She doesn't need to be told she's beautiful to feel beautiful. She doesn't need someone to confirm her worth before she believes in it. She validates her own feelings, her own choices, and her own growth. She gives herself permission to be proud of who she is, not because someone said she should be, but because she knows the effort, the resilience, and the authenticity that she carries. This kind of inner confidence is built over time. It comes from honoring your boundaries, speaking your truth, and not shrinking to fit into spaces that don't feel right. It grows every time you say no to something that doesn't serve you, and yes to something that challenges you to grow. Self-approval means taking the time to understand who you are outside of other people's expectations. It means creating a life that reflects your values, not one designed to impress or appease others. When a woman moves from self-approval, she becomes magnetic, not because she's performing or seeking attention, but because she's grounded. People sense that she doesn't need their praise to feel good about herself. That energy commands respect. It invites connection without desperation. It's confident, not because it's loud, but because it's real. This kind of confidence can't be taken away. It's not affected by rejection, criticism, or silence. It remains steady because it was never built on other people's opinions to begin with. And when a woman discovers that, she becomes untouchable in the best possible way, not cold, not detached, but centered. She stops living for the applause and starts living in alignment with herself. And in that alignment, she finds the kind of peace and power that no amount of external validation could ever offer. Every rejection is a learning opportunity. Though it may not feel that way in the moment, rejection has a way of revealing truths we wouldn't have seen otherwise. It slows us down, it stops us from heading in the wrong direction, and it invites us to pause and reflect. Most people experience rejection as a blow to their ego or self-esteem. It can be painful, confusing, and even humiliating, but for a woman who is building confidence and value from within, rejection becomes something different. It becomes a mirror, a moment to observe, to question, to understand, and ultimately to grow. When someone turns you down, passes you over, or chooses someone else, the natural reaction is to take it personally. But digging beneath that surface pain can lead to clarity. Rejection forces you to confront patterns. Was there something you ignored? A red flag you downplayed? A compromise you made that didn't sit right with you? These are the lessons rejection offers if you're willing to look. It teaches you about your blind spots, your boundaries, and even your hidden desires. It teaches you to listen to yourself more carefully and to trust what you feel before it turns into something more painful. Hi, Al. You women don't fear rejection because they know that every time something doesn't work out, it's a chance to get sharper about what they truly want. They don't view a no as the end of something, but as feedback, a form of data about their decisions, their environment, or the people they're choosing to engage with. Sometimes the lesson is about timing. Sometimes it's about standards. Sometimes it's about learning to let go of things that aren't in alignment. Whatever the message, they don't waste rejection by only focusing on the pain. They extract the insight from it. This shift in perspective doesn't happen overnight. It takes intention and maturity to reframe rejection as a stepping stone rather than a stop sign. But once you see it that way, you stop fearing it. You stop avoiding it. You begin to understand that rejection doesn't take from you, it teaches you. It sharpens your intuition. It deepens your understanding of people. It strengthens your sense of self, because every time you recover from it, you prove to yourself that your value isn't tied to someone else's decision. There's also a certain kind of resilience that only rejection can teach. When you've been turned down and you've still shown up the next day, with integrity, with openness, with grace, you become someone who can't be easily shaken. That inner stability comes not from always winning or being chosen, but from knowing how to stay grounded in the face of disappointment. And that, in itself, is a kind of quiet power. So the next time rejection shows up in your life, try asking not, "Why did this happen to me?" but "What is this here to teach me?" That simple question can turn pain into purpose and shift your entire path forward. They don't chase, they attract. This is one of the most powerful mindset shifts a woman can embrace when stepping into her confidence and self-worth. Chasing is born from scarcity. It's rooted in the belief that something valuable might slip away if you don't go after it, that love or success or approval must be pursued aggressively or else it will vanish. But you women operate differently. They understand that chasing anything, people, opportunities, validation, immediately shifts the balance of energy. It puts you in a position of seeking instead of receiving. And when you're constantly chasing, you're often trying to convince someone or something to choose you, which suggests that you don't already see your own value. Attracting, on the other hand, comes from a place of inner abundance. It's the quiet confidence of knowing that what is meant for you doesn't need to be hunted down or persuaded. It simply needs to be welcomed. When a woman is in an attracting state, she is not passive or inactive. She is intentional, magnetic, and aligned. She puts herself in the spaces where what she desires can find her, but she never compromises her values or exhausts herself trying to earn love, attention, or opportunity. She lets her presence speak before she says a word. She lets her energy be the filter that brings the right people and situations into her life. This doesn't mean she doesn't take action or show interest. It means she knows the difference between moving forward with openness and overextending herself in desperation. When she meets someone, she's curious, but she's also clear. She's willing to engage, but not to beg. She doesn't force connections, she allows them to unfold. If someone is inconsistent or unclear, she doesn't chase clarity. She lets that inconsistency be her answer. She doesn't ask for more than someone is willing to give, because she's too grounded in what she already gives to herself. The same is true in her professional life. She's not sending energy in every direction hoping something will stick. She's focused, selective, and strategic. She knows that when she is aligned with her purpose, the right opportunities recognize her. She trusts her preparation, her presence, and her potential enough to know that she doesn't need to scream to be seen. Her calm confidence attracts the right kind of attention because it doesn't need to prove anything. This way of living invites respect. It creates space for authentic connections, not ones built on pressure or performance. People are drawn to her not because she demands their attention, but because she doesn't. Her stillness, her certainty, her refusal to chase those things stand out in a world that often confuses anxiety for passion and neediness for love. She becomes unforgettable, not by doing the most, but by doing only what's true to her. That's the essence of attraction, not trying harder, but being more aligned with who you truly are. Rejection clarifies standards and boundaries. At first, it can feel like a painful loss, something taken away, something denied. But in the silence that follows rejection, there is often a clarity that couldn't have surfaced otherwise. It is in those moments of being turned away, let down, or passed over that a woman is given the space to reflect on what she actually wants, what she's been tolerating, and where her boundaries may have been too flexible. Rejection can feel harsh, but it also tells the truth in ways that compliments and approval rarely do. When someone rejects you, they're showing you something about themselves, their values, or their readiness. But more importantly, they shine a light on what you've been accepting and what you've been excusing. Maybe you've been giving too much of yourself in hopes of being chosen. Maybe you've been lowering your standards to make something work that was never meant to. Rejection strips away the illusion. It forces you to see clearly where your expectations have been too low or your boundaries too soft. It invites you to ask, was I truly being honored? Was this situation really serving me? Or was I just afraid to lose it? You women use rejection as a tool for refinement. They don't let it destroy their confidence. They let it sharpen their awareness. They learn to ask deeper questions. Not just why didn't this person want me, but why was I so eager for their approval in the first place? That self-inquiry leads to powerful insights about what they've been settling for, and what they truly need to feel seen, respected, and safe. Each rejection becomes a checkpoint, a moment to reassess and realign. Over time, rejection helps them define their non-negotiables. It teaches them what behaviors are no longer acceptable and what kind of treatment they refuse to entertain again. If someone disappears without explanation, they don't obsess over the disappearance. They make a boundary about communication. If someone shows up inconsistently, they don't try to win their attention. They recognize the need for emotional reliability and make space for someone who offers it. They stop interpreting rejection as failure and start seeing it as data. Valuable, honest data about how others engage and how they themselves respond. Boundaries, once clarified through rejection, become less about defense and more about self-respect. They're no longer about keeping people out, but about keeping your peace in. Rejection doesn't make them bitter, it makes them precise. It strips away confusion and guesswork. It reveals what fits and what doesn't. It teaches them to stop over-explaining, over-giving, and overextending. With every rejection, they become more rooted in their values, more attuned to their worth, and more protective of their energy. And so, while rejection may sting in the short term, its long-term gift is perspective. It becomes the filter through which standards are raised and boundaries are reinforced. What once felt like an ending now becomes a powerful beginning, a chance to relate to yourself more deeply and demand more authentically from the world around you. They reframe rejection as protection. It's not an easy perspective to adopt, especially when the sting of being dismissed, overlooked, or abandoned feels fresh. Rejection often shows up as loss of connection, opportunity, or a version of the future we imagined. But over time and with wisdom, it becomes clear that many of the things we thought we wanted would not have truly served us. What felt like a painful ending was often a quiet rescue. The plans that fell apart were shielding us from a reality we couldn't yet see clearly. This is the mindset that you women carry. They do not view rejection as a personal failure, but as unseen protection from misalignment. When something doesn't go the way they hoped, they might still feel the disappointment, but they don't get stuck in the idea that they've been punished or found lacking. Instead, they pause and choose to believe that something beyond the surface is unfolding. They recognize that they were possibly saved from further emotional labor, unbalanced energy, unmet needs, or slow erosion of their self-worth. That job they didn't get, that person who walked away, that door that closed, none of it was meant to diminish them. It was meant to redirect them to something more aligned with who they are becoming. This way of thinking is not naive, it's deeply empowering. It requires trust, not in outcomes, but in your own intuition and resilience. It means believing that what falls away is not always a loss, but sometimes a necessary clearing. Often, the things we chase most fiercely are the very things that would have drained us, confused us, or pulled us further away from our center. Rejection comes in, and though it can be jarring, it acts like a filter, keeping us from attaching to the wrong people, the wrong paths, or the wrong roles. Over time, you women begin to see patterns. They realize that the things they once cried over are the same things they now thank life for ending. That person who ghosted, it revealed how much they needed consistency. That project that never took off, it led them to discover their deeper passion. Each rejection, no matter how personal it felt in the moment, ultimately protected their time, energy, and emotional well-being. It wasn't rejection out of cruelty. It was rejection out of necessity. When you reframe rejection as protection, you stop chasing closure that doesn't exist. You stop fighting for explanations. You stop making excuses for why something didn't last. Instead, you begin to trust that what leaves your life is clearing space for something more authentic. You stop begging to stay where you're not wanted, and you start protecting your own peace with the same strength that life used to protect you. That's the quiet, unshakable power that comes from choosing to see rejection not as a wound, but as a shield. It didn't break you, it guarded you, and with time, that truth becomes one of the deepest sources of confidence you carry.